Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to cover the MSI series that took place on MSI Play-ins Day 4 between PSG Estral, GAM, and Loud. Winner goes to the loser bracket finals, whatever the hell you want to call it, and the loser goes home. So, PSG Estral, this was a one-sided affair. PSG from PCS dominated the Latin American squad of Estral. So, in Game 1, slow early game. PSG went top side once. Estral went mid and bot side a couple times. Actually, in terms of making plays, this series was very even, ending 5-5. But PSG, Junjia especially, was on it. Very excellent series out of him. Ozzy in top lane, a great series out of him. As Zolfe just really didn't have it going at all. Game 1, only 3 grubs were taken. Estral will take Herald, but PSG took 4 Drakes. So they were scaling. They were in a good spot at 12:45 when the first Drake fell. There's a 1.3k gold lead for the top laner of PSG over Estral's. Estral did have a 0.9, so a 900 gold lead in the bot side, with lane swaps and things like that. It just didn't end up panning out for Estral. Junjia was a better team fighter. The squad just better at team fighting, taking objectives when they needed to, and just slowly choking them out. They had one Baron. It was over 3,800 gold. Game 2 was a lot different, very one-sided. So PSG, like I said, slowly choked out Estral in Game 1. Estral making plays here or there, but it really wasn't going to ever be enough. And then in Game 2, PSG ran them over. Junjia dominating, like I said. In terms of the early game, PSG went to all 3 areas of the Rift at least once, mid lane twice to get Maple in a good position over Cody. And Estral and Jose Deodo tried to go topside twice, but it didn't really make a damn difference. Ozzy ended up with a 1.5k gold lead when the first turret fell at about 15 minutes. Junjia had a 2.3k gold lead. Mid lane had a 1.5k gold lead. I mean, it was just over. By that point, I think the gold lead at 20 minutes was something crazy, maybe even double digits. The teams did trade grubs, but unfortunately, all the Drakes and the one Baron went to PSG for Estral. Estral, like I said, didn't have much going. So 5-5 in terms of plays in the early game, but objectives were just heavily in the favor of PSG. They took 7 Drakes to 1 for Estral. They took both Barons, averaging about 3,600 gold to 3,700 gold with them. 6 grubs, 1 herald, and Estral took 3 grubs, 1 herald. Ozzy in top lane went 7-1-21, leading the team with 27% of damage. Junjia had the best KDA, 15-1-17. So top side of the Rift for PSG, going 22-2-38. Going into a matchup against FlyQuest, where the top side is their strongest suit, and actually we'll talk about that in a minute, their last series that they played only a few days ago, that is an important thing to have online going into that one. Cody went 3-9-2, 30% of damage in the loss for Estral. GAM and Loud. So I thought Loud were going to win this 2-0. Emo really hadn't shown me much in those first 2 series, and it's not his fault. Easy Love, I mean, he had some moments and also had moments why, hey, explaining why this guy didn't have this spot to begin with on GAM Esports when they went into playoffs in Vietnam. But Loud just, this, personally, I think this is a bigger upset and a bigger one, it wasn't one side, it went to 3 games, but we think about how T1 dominated FlyQuest yesterday in 17, 18 minutes or whatever. This is a bigger deal to me. Personally, I think that, honestly, I thought Loud had this. Maybe I was drinking too much of the comment copium from Brazilian fans, CB Lull fans. Some even deleting their comments, claiming that Loud were going to win, and I can't imagine anything more pathetic than that. So for that individual, that is literally a great description for that action. But regardless, this is bad, and you guys know it's bad. But it's bad that VCS lost to GAM when GAM had 2 subs in their lineup. Man. Now, identifying who's your best players, Tin owns Root. You put Root on Senna in all 3 games. That's not great. There are better set of performances at this Worlds, though, so MSI, so I'm not going to say that that's the only problem, because Root did have mistakes. He did get caught out at times. And Croc got kind of gapped in this one, too. So game one, Loud did win this one, a very slow game. Honestly, this series was very slow. We only had 7 plays by Gam and 2 by Loud in the laning phases during this series. There were team fights, don't get me wrong, around objectives and contests in the jungle, and I probably should include a jungle option for plays in terms of maybe making an invade and then getting a kill or something, or sniffing one out, if you will, and catching a jungler in their jungle. But as far as everything else is concerned, Gam were just setting the pace, especially in Game 3. So Games 1 and 2, very slow. Loud had a 1.1k gold lead in mid at the end of laning phase at 14-15, so Tinone's in a good spot over Emo. And laning-wise, Tinone's did do well into Emo, but Emo, it was very simple. Don't die. I mean, some people did have criticism for him, maybe not being aggressive enough or making the right plays, but I think it's clear that they said, hey, man, just don't die. Don't int. Don't die. Slow and steady, and Kiea and Levi will take this one, and that's what occurred. So, like I said, game one, very slow. Loud took all 6 grubs. Gam would take the Rift Herald. They took Rift Herald in all 3 of these games. Drake's only 2-1 in favor of Loud, and Loud had a 700 gold Baron, but they won off of a late game team fight and just ended in that situation. So, game one, just like I said, very slow, and it just took one fight, and it was kind of it. Now, game 2, Loud were in a position to win this one. Gam, so Loud kind of tossed it. Gam, it was like a hot potato sort of situation in the early to mid game. Laning phase ended at 19 minutes. For me, I determine laning phase ending when the first turret falls, not when plates end and things like that. So at 19 minutes, Kiea had almost a 2k gold lead in top lane, 29 CS advantage. We saw a 1.6k gold lead for the bot duo of Gam as well, up 30 CS. Mid jungle favoring Loud, though, 2.5k gold lead. Croc did do some things on the Viego, but in terms of plays, very slow game. Gam were the only one to actually attempt something in lane, whether it was a dive or a gank or something of that nature. They took the Herald, all 6 grubs, once again going to Loud. Loud took 4 Drakes. They took a Baron, had 1280 gold off of it. It wasn't the best Baron, but they had something. It went positive, and some teams at this event can't even say that. But they lost key late game team fights. This game went 40 minutes, and Gam took 2 Barons, and they also got the most important Drake, which was Elder. And the Elder led to the Baron, which then led to another Baron, and that was the game. For Gam Esports. Levi doing very well in those late game team fights. Easy Love as well on the Zeri in games 2 and 3. Emo, like I said, not dying. They lost a game, but he only died twice in this series. So, it just, man, it's ugly. Kiea, I think, solo killed Robo in game 2 as well. That gives him 5 solos on Robo in only 8 months, where Robo has none. It's not... I've said this to Loud fans going into this event, that it's not great that your team is the oldest team at this event either. In my opinion, it doesn't make me think, oh, this team can get better. It's kind of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. People get into habits. If they've played hundreds and hundreds of games on stage, they have their champions. They have their style of play, and evidently it works for them in Brazil, but it does not work internationally. In game 3, Gam just set the tone. Levi on Lee Sin got after it. He got after it, and Gam Loud had no response. Croc was gapped on the Sejuani. Levi made 5 plays, ganks and things of that nature. And as a result, Gam had a 1.8k gold lead in bot lane, 1.4k gold lead in the jungle. Tinone's once again had a gold lead in mid, so all 3 games he had a gold lead at the end of laning phase, but it just wasn't enough. Tinone's ends up leading this team with like 37% of damage, almost had as many kills as deaths, and no one else on this team could claim that. In terms of Barons and Drakes and things like that, Gam would take the Herald again, but gave away 5 grubs. Took 4 Drakes to 1. Took 2 Barons for 2277 in terms of gold. I think they may have ended the game on their second Baron. The totals for the series: Gam makes 7 plays, Loud make 2. Grubs 17 to 1 in favor of Loud, but Gam took all 3 Rift Heralds, so good luck using, the power of those grubs necessarily when you don't take the Herald. Drakes were pretty even, 6 to 7, but Gam had an Elder, which was huge in game 2. 2748 was the average for Gam across their 4 Barons, and Loud's average was 983 off of 2. So Loud going positive over 2 Barons, but you can clearly see Gam were the better of the pair. Now, preview for tomorrow. We've seen these 2 series just a couple days ago, so we're going to go over just the totals from those series in terms of my stats. FlyQuest, PSG. FlyQuest would win 2 to 1. Fly made 9 plays. PSG made 5. The bulk of the plays going to mid lane. 8 of the 6 plus 9, so 15. So, hell, just over half. No. We have 9 plus 7, 16. So half of the plays went mid lane. Clearly an emphasis trying to get Jensen and Maple behind. We saw in game 3 in particular, they put Maple on Karma very far behind, and it was a big reason why they lost. Buzio and Masu did very well in that series. Now against T1, different animal. They struggled. We saw Bwipo very dominant in the top lane. I think he played Urgot games 1 and 2, and then Olaf in game 3. Ozzy, no response. Inspired doing very well. Junjia, meh. And the bot lane of PSG stood their ground. It wasn't the best series ever, but personally, I wouldn't say that they were necessarily the reason why they lost. In terms of objectives, that was an interesting one because PSG took 17 grubs and Fly took 13 Drakes, and that was a close matchup. That's why we're seeing it again. Another thing I want to watch going forward. Let's see if they continue to trade those objectives that way, or over the last couple days, things may have changed in terms of what people want to do. In terms of Barons, Fly had 4 and PSG had 2, and PSG only came out ahead 35 gold on average over those 2 Barons, so that's a big thing too. PSG need to utilize their objectives better. Gam and Fnatic. Fnatic blew out Gam 2-0 in that one. It was kind of almost a for funsies match. A lot of people criticizing Fnatic in that one. Honestly, I thought Fnatic were just glorified scrimming on stage. They had 32 kills or something in one of the games as they were taking the Nexus. So the fact of the matter is, that kind of just shows dominance. It was close, and then all of a sudden it was like it wasn't close anymore. Hands diff, solo kills here, there, and everywhere. In terms of plays, Fnatic made 12 and Gam made 4. Top side of the Rift being more important for Fnatic. We saw Humanoid getting around the Rift, making things happen. Emo in his first series on a international stage. Like I've said, and I've said this whole tournament, he played great today, but my expectations are very tempered for him. And then, in terms of grubs, Gam took 10 and lost, and Fnatic took 7 Drakes. So, in these 2 matchups, the team that took the Drakes ended up on the winning side of things. Power plays, 2 for Fnatic. They had about 1350 gold on average, and Gam had 387. They did take 1. No, actually, sorry. That went negative. That Baron went negative, 387. The way I view that, every team gets 15-25 Baron if all 5 players are alive when they take it. And then I subtract the power play minus that to kind of determine how much gold did they get out of it. So that's a thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube supporter. And hope to see you again tomorrow.